The walk up the garden path felt long. Well, today was October 13th, 2025. The sun bled orange and purple across the evening sky. Tom's keys felt heavy in his hand, a small weight against the bone-deep weariness that had settled in his shoulders. All he wanted was the quiet hum of the refrigerator. He wanted the soft click of the television remote. He wanted the familiar scent of his own home, a place of peace after a day of noise and demands. The scent of cut grass hung in the cooling air. A single cricket chirped from somewhere near the fence, a lonely sound in the twilight. He just wanted to be home. He wanted to be done with the day. He turned the key in the lock. The door swung open on silent, well-oiled hinges. He froze in the threshold. His home was not his own. In the warm glow of the kitchen, his wife, Emma, leaned against the counter. A man stood close to her, his back to the door. They were laughing, a low, intimate sound that did not belong in this house. Their hands brushed, a casual touch that felt like a deliberate betrayal. Tom's heart didn't just stop. It felt like it had been ripped from his chest. A hot, acidic burn crawled up his throat. He did not make a sound. There were no tears, no shouts, only a sudden roaring heat filling his head and a tight, high-pitched whine in his ears. He stepped inside. His work shoes made no noise on the polished floorboards. He was a ghost in his own life. The other man turned then, a lazy, confident movement. He had a small, self-satisfied smile on his face. The man looked proud, like he had conquered something. He looked like he belonged there more than Tom did. Tom watched them, the two of them framed by the familiar yellow of the kitchen walls. The whole world seemed to recede, becoming a distant, muffled scene viewed through a long, dark tunnel. He felt nothing and everything all at once. The man's smile faltered. He opened his mouth to speak, perhaps to ask who Tom was. Emma's face had gone pale. She took a half step away from the stranger, her hand flying to her throat. "Tom," she breathed, her voice a small, broken thing. But Tom wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the cast-iron frying pan hanging from a hook by the stove. It was black and heavy, a solid, dependable thing. He reached for it, his movements slow and deliberate, like a man in a dream. His fingers closed around the cool handle. The weight of it felt right. It felt like an answer to a question he hadn't known he was asking. Tom pulled the heavy frying pan from its hook. He did not hesitate. He swung it once, a clean, brutal arc through the kitchen air. He put all his strength, all his shock, all his burning rage into that single motion. The pan connected with the side of the stranger's head with a sickening, metallic thud. It was not a loud sound, but it filled the room completely. The man's eyes went wide with a final, stark surprise. He did not cry out. He simply crumpled, his body folding onto the clean kitchen tiles like a discarded coat. Emma let out a sharp, piercing scream. She clapped a hand over her mouth, her eyes huge and terrified. The cold evening air seemed to rush into Tom's lungs, chilling him from the inside out. The man was not dead. A low, guttural gasp escaped his lips. He tried to push himself up, one hand sliding on the floor. Tom raised the pan again. He brought it down with the same numb precision. The sound this time was duller, wetter. The room rang with the echo of the blow. The man's quick, panicked breaths hitched, then stopped altogether. A profound silence fell over the kitchen, broken only by Emma's frantic, ragged sobs. She scrambled for the phone on the wall, her fingers fumbling at the buttons. Tom moved past her, his body feeling both light and impossibly heavy. He ripped the phone cord from the wall. No police, no sirens. He just wanted the body to be gone. He dragged the man by the ankles. The body was a dead weight, surprisingly difficult to move. The heels of the man's expensive shoes scraped a long, dark line across the pristine floor. Tom pulled him through the kitchen, past the dining table, out the back door, into the garden. The soil in the flower bed was soft and damp from the afternoon's rain. Tom began to dig with his bare hands, clawing at the earth. He felt the wet, cool dirt beneath his fingernails. It packed under his skin, cold and gritty. The night smelled of rich soil and crushed, wet grass. A sliver of a moon offered almost no light, leaving the garden in deep, forgiving shadows. It was not a deep hole. It was barely a trench. Tom didn't have the time or the tools for anything more. He rolled the man's body into the shallow depression. The man's arm was thrown over his face as if shielding himself. Tom didn't look at him. He began to push the soil back into the hole, handful by handful. He could feel the earth settling, covering the dark suit, the pale hand, the silent face. Emma grew paler, thinner. She told Tom she was having bad dreams, dreams of being trapped underground, unable to breathe. She'd wake in the dead of night, staring at the ceiling, convinced she heard a footstep on the grass outside. One night, a sound from the garden jolted Tom from a shallow, restless sleep. It was not the wind. It was not an animal. It was a slow, distinct scraping noise. It sounded like stone grinding against stone, or like fingernails dragging through tightly packed soil. He sat bolt upright in bed, his heart hammering against his ribs so hard it felt like it might break through. He held his breath, straining to listen. The sound came again, louder this time. It was a shifting, shuffling sound, the sound of disturbed earth, the sound of someone moving in a place where no one should be. The sheets were damp with his cold sweat. He had to see. He had to know. He grabbed the heavy metal flashlight from his nightstand and crept downstairs. He unlocked the back door, his hands shaking so much he could barely turn the bolt. He stepped out into the garden. The air was cold and still. The moon was nearly full now, casting long, distorted shadows that writhed and danced with every slight breeze. The rose bush stood black against the pale lawn. Tom's beam cut a nervous path through the darkness. He moved closer, feeling the cold air press against his face like a damp cloth. Then he saw it. At the base of the bush, there was a small, fresh mound of displaced earth. His breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled, and the beam of the flashlight danced wildly across the ground. The soil was loose. It was freshly turned. He had not done this. He had made sure the ground was flat, packed down tight. He took another hesitant step forward, his shoes sinking slightly into the soft turf. The smell was stronger here. It was the smell of decay, the smell of damp earth and something else, something sweet and rotten. The scraping sound came again, directly from the ground in front of him. It was close. It was right under his feet. He felt a vibration travel up through the soles of his shoes. Then, a hand broke through the soil. It was a pale, skeletal hand, caked in black dirt. The fingernails were dark and broken. The fingers clawed at the edge of the hole, gripping a thick root for leverage. Tom stumbled backward, a strangled gasp caught in his throat. He tried to scream, but his voice was gone, stolen by the impossible sight. The hand pulled, and more soil fell away. A head followed, pushing up into the cold night air. Dark hair, matted, wet with earth, clung to the skull. Then the man's eyes opened. Wide, white, completely empty. They fixed on Tom with horrifying intensity. He was looking right at him. Tom fell to his knees in the wet grass. The man from the kitchen crawled out of his shallow grave. He moved in slow, jerky motions, like a broken puppet. Soil fell from his torn, rotting clothes. Worms fell from his clothes. The smell rolled off him, overwhelming. Wet dirt, stale air, unmoving stillness. His mouth opened, a dark O in his pale face. No sound, only a dry, rasping hiss. He reached out a dirt-stained hand and laid his fingers against Tom's cheek. The touch was impossibly cold, slow and heavy, like a slab of stone. Tom was paralyzed, pure, unthinking terror. Suddenly, the back door opened. A soft light spilled onto the lawn. Emma stood there, holding a single flickering candle. Her eyes were as wide and empty as the dead man's. She showed no surprise, no fear. She did not move. She simply watched, a silent observer. The dead man slowly turned his head, looked at Emma, then back at Tom. A smile stretched his cold, stiff lips, small, slow, knowing. Tom found his legs, tried to scramble away, but they wouldn't obey. They felt like lead.
"You buried the wrong man," he whispered.
Tom's world shattered. He looked from the corpse to the woman in the doorway. Emma smiled the same slow, knowing smile. The corpse's fingers tightened on his face. Its other hand reached for him. The last thing Tom saw: dark sockets, empty sockets, the triumphant light in his wife's eyes, cold light in her eyes. The garden, the house, the entire world was swallowed by a sudden, final darkness. The candle in the doorway flickered once and went out.